You know, this song, Strange Fruit, is the song that got Billie Holiday killed, y'all. This song got her murdered. I really hate to say that this song really got her killed, but it's the truth. So let's get into the story. Now, in 1939, 23-year-old Billie Holiday, Lady Day, we all know as Lady Day, released a song called Strange Fruit on Commodore Records, which would forever make an impact on the world. Now, the lyrics to Strange Fruit were originally a poem called Bitter Fruit, written by a Russian Jewish guy named Abel Mirapol. And he was a communist English teacher and a civil rights activist from the Bronx. And he actually wrote the poem after he saw a photo of the lynching of two black men in front of thousands of people in Marion, Indiana on August 7th, 1930. The two black men that were lynched were named J. Thomas Shipp and Abraham Smith, and they were teenagers. There was also a third guy named James Cameron, who was 16 years old. But these teens were accused of robbing and murdering a white factory worker named Claude Dieter and raping his girlfriend named Mary Ball, who was with him at the time. So while in jail, when they put the teens in jail, a large white lynch mob of about 12 to 15,000 people, men, women, and children, stormed the jail, pulled them out of their cells, and start beating on them. Now, 16-year-old James Cameron was beaten, and they had put the noose around his neck, but at the last minute, he was saved by some women because he never had anything to do with it. He had left before the murder had happened to Claude Dieter. But the other two black teens, Thomas Shipp and Abraham Smith, ended up being beaten badly in their jail cells. They had actually hanged Thomas Shipp from the bars of his jail window. Wow. And Abraham Smith tried to free himself from the noose, but he was overpowered, and that's when they broke his arms and legs to prevent him from trying to escape the noose around his neck. They killed him at the police station, and then they hung him up in a tree. Wow. So Thomas Shipp and Abraham Smith were lynched, and 16-year-old James Cameron, he went to trial. The rape charges was dropped against him after Mary Ball's testimony cleared him. She said nobody tried to rape her at all, but the two other teens did rob and kill her husband, Claude Dieter. And 16-year-old James Cameron was an accessory before the fact to the murder of Claude Dieter, and he had to serve 4 years of his sentence in the state prison. Now, a photographer named Lawrence Baitler took a picture of the dead men hanging and swinging from the tree, surrounded by a large white mob. And he sold thousands of copies of that picture in the next 10 days. That's the picture that Abel Mirapol saw in 1937. And it made him write the poem called Bitter Fruit, because it haunted him and it was so disturbing and it made him cry. The bitter fruit was compared to the victims to the fruits of the trees. And the poem ended up being published in a magazine called New Masses, and it was published in the New York Teacher, which was a union magazine of the New York Teachers Union. And then Abel Mirapol turned it into a protest song, and he called it Strange Fruit. Now, at first, he had his wife sing it. She used to perform it at the Madison Square Garden. Now, how Billie Holiday got introduced to the song, Abel Mirapol actually brought the poem to her. And once she read it and liked it, he suggested she turn it into a song. Now, another story on how Billie Holiday was introduced to the poem, Barney Josephson, who was the founder and owner of Cafe Society nightclub, where Billie Holiday used to perform all the time regularly, he brought the poem to her. And when they asked her to sing it, she really didn't want to, but she did it as a favor to him. And the first time she put the lyrics and made a song out of the poem was in 1934, and she sung it at that club, Cafe Society, which was the first integrated nightclub in New York City. Now, as Billie kept singing the song, she started to love the song because it reminded her of her father, who died at the age of 39 from a fatal lung disorder after he was exposed to poisonous gas during World War I. What happened was he was turned away from a Texas whites-only hospital because he was a black man. Billie said the song seemed to spell out all the things that had killed her father, even though he wasn't lynched. But she believed the denial of his care for multiple whites-only hospitals was, in its own way, a kind of murder. And she started performing it at all her shows. It was the last song she ended her shows with. And it got to the point that she started to get kind of scared and fearful to perform the song, and felt that it could be some retaliation by the racist whites, but she felt the world needed to hear it. Billie said that she has to keep singing it, not only because people asked for it, but because 20 years after her father died, the things that killed him are still happening in the South. She even had rules when she would sing the song at clubs, like the waiters had to stop serving when she would sing the song, and the room had to be in total darkness except for a spotlight on her face. And she didn't want an encore. She just wanted people to hear them lyrics. Now, here's some of the lyrics to Strange Fruit. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. And she would get mixed reactions from the crowd because white and black people loved her music. The black people would love it, but some of the whites would end up leaving the club when she would perform it. And she had asked her record label, Columbia Records, could she record it as a single, but they refused because they felt that the record stores down south wouldn't support it. So that's when she went to another record label, which was Commodore Records, and sung the song for the owner of that record company, and he started crying. He was touched by the song and agreed to let her record it. And when they released it, it sold over 1 million copies, becoming one of her biggest songs in her career. It became an anthem and has been called a declaration and the beginning of the civil rights movement. And the song also had a lot of white teens listening to it, in which they never heard a song about lynching, and some of them would cry when they heard the song. But, like I said earlier, a lot of people didn't like the song. Like down in the South, radio stations refused to play the song, but the song became so popular on its own, it really didn't need no radio airplay in the South. Now, one person in particular really hated the song. His name was Harry Anslinger, who was the Federal Bureau of Narcotics commissioner. And he tried to stop her from performing the song. Now, this guy, Harry Anslinger, was a known racist, and he once stated that he believed that drugs caused black people to overstep their boundaries in America's society, and that black jazz singers who smoke marijuana are the ones that created the devil's music. Wow. So when he told Billie Holiday to stop performing the Strange Fruit song, and she refused and kept singing it, that's when he set her up. Look, he had some men sell her some heroin because he knew she was on that heroin bad at the time. What he did was he had one of his men track her and frame her with buying and using heroin. So when he caught her using drugs, he arrested her and she had to do 18 months in prison. And when she got out of prison, she was banned from performing in nightclubs. Wow. I mean, look, she did perform multiple times and sold out Carnegie Hall, but she liked performing for her people in the nightclubs. When they banned her from the nightclub circuit, Billie really couldn't make no money, which led to her depression, and she got hooked back on that heroin. And she was so messed up on drugs that she checked herself into a hospital. But this guy, Harry Anslinger, he was so determined to stop her that when she was in the hospital sick, suffering from a heart and lung problems and cirrhosis of the liver, this guy, Harry Anslinger, had his men go to the hospital, handcuff her to the bed. They handcuffed her to the bed. And Billie told her family and friends that she needed to get out of there because he was trying to kill her. She told him that they was going to kill her. He was basically torturing her. He would put heroin at the bottom of her bed to keep framing her, which made the judge give out a court order to handcuff her to the bed. Wow. Him and his agents, they make fun of her, take mug shots of her, interrogating her without a lawyer, fingerprinting her. Look, he even removed all the gifts that people brought to her room. And he had two of his police officers at her door so nobody could visit unless they had a written permit. The crazy part is her health was getting better before he did all that to her. She had stopped drinking and everything. But the main thing that really made her health go down was when he told the doctors to not give her any more treatment and medicine. And days later, man, she ended up dying. Wow. Crazy, man. She died from a pulmonary edema and heart failure caused by cirrhosis of the liver. 44 years old. Wow, that's sad, man. So by her singing that song, Strange Fruit, Harry Anslinger basically murdered her. He murdered her, man. There's a video on YouTube of her singing that song back in 1959, just a few months before she died. And if you really listen to the song, it'll give you chills. It's a powerful song, very powerful song. But in 1978, Strange Fruit was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. In 2002, it was selected for preservation in the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress. It was also included in the Songs of the Century list of the Recording Industry Association of America and the National Endowment for the Arts. Time magazine named Strange Fruit as the best song of the century. Rolling Stone listed the song as the 21st best song on their top 500 best songs of all time. Nina Simone did a cover of it in 1965. But it's a very powerful song, y'all. So y'all check it out when y'all get a chance. But it's a very powerful song, y'all. Very powerful song. So check it out when y'all get the chance. And rest in peace to Lady Day, the great Miss Billie Holiday. And y'all stay tuned for more stories of the series Song of Reason.